Matt, the way you guys ended the first half, in retrospect, how big was that, and the role Nojo played in that,
right,
kind of starting things defensively?
Yeah, we're in a little bit of a lull offensively, and Nojo really sparked us in the first half, making a couple plays, a couple of drives. And then I thought the most important stretch, obviously, was that end of that first half and the start of the second half, being able to make those threes and get off to a good start to get them on their heels.
The way Joe played offensively too, he seemed really aggressive, and then the way Carson played just seemed extremely comfortable. It was
right.
Another really good game for him as a facilitator. You just kind of talk about the way those guys are playing right now offensively.
Well, I thought Nogel kind of did a good job of picking the spots and driving there in the first half and getting to the lane. He's such a big-bodied guy at that position that if he can get an angle on guys and get to the paint, he's going to be pretty efficient. Then I thought Carson let some things come to him and was pretty efficient tonight and had a 7 assist and had a balance, and things really didn't go his way in terms of shooting the basketball. Only being 6 for 18, but I thought he played a good floor game, and I thought he did some good things defensively because we had to, flip-flop some different things because of the matchup with Langford. We had to put Nogel on Langford, and then Nogel normally picks up the basketball, come up the court, and then Carson, I thought, did a good job of guarding the ball.
I guess just to expand upon that defensively, what was the game plan with Langford today?
Well, obviously we were fortunate that he got in foul trouble. That we had some things go our way that helped. Langford getting in foul trouble and those guys not being able to make a free throw. We really benefited from that. If those two things don't happen, the narrative of the game, could be much different. And so we were fortunate that, he got in some foul trouble, but I thought anytime when a guy sits out like that and gets back in, he's got to get into a rhythm. With him, he's so good at driving the basketball that he gets to the free throw line. Then he didn't make his free throws. So then, you get into kind of the mode of frustration. You do some positive things, but now you don't get any points for it because you miss your free throws. So we just tried to keep Nogel on him and just do the best job we could and try to bottle him up as much as we could and not let him get to the paint, even though a handful of times we weren't successful.
Matt, in what ways has this team evolved and grown, especially this last stretch?
Yeah, well, I think our effort is much better. We've been pretty active and we've got our hands on basketballs and made it difficult for people, even though we still have breakdowns. There's not as many, and then when we do get beat or get behind in a rotation, our guys have really given a great effort. And then we've done a better job of taking care of the basketball. This is the most turnovers we've had in a while, but it's still a pretty low number. And I think the balance of that, of being able to make better decisions offensively, get the ball where it needs to be, and then just playing hard on the defensive end and being really active.
You mentioned Carson letting some plays come to him. It seemed like he did a good job in this one of recognizing where he was being doubled from, who was open because they were doubling him. I guess how important was that? How would you see him?
It was really important because he comes off those pin downs and the dribble handoffs and looking to catch and shoot. And not a lot of guys can go full tilt and run and catch and shoot the basketball. That was always a tough thing for us when we played Indiana because Yogi Ferrell could just go 100 miles an hour and stop on a dime and shoot. It's not a lot of things you can do in a walkthrough to stop that. If you don't have the physical ability to do that, you normally need somebody else to help you. So when they step out there on those screens, he's got to find the guy, who's diving. He's got to find if they overhelp the guys in the corner. And when he makes those passes, it really puts the other team in a bind because they're going to take something away from him, but it's going to open something up. But if you don't look for it, and then you watch film and someone doesn't look for it, and they're just looking to score all the time, it's much easier to guard, even though he can get in some grooves where he still makes them. When he's passing the basketball, driving the basketball, taking his threes, and he has that balance, and he just takes what the defense gives him. Obviously it's tough for other people to guard.
Was there any particular reason the slip was there for Matt so much?
Just on that, on the hedges I was talking about, they were stepping.
Playing it differently than other people, though.
Just depends, because we play a lot of different people and they've handled it differently. But people are normally aggressive. They're more aggressive with it like they are. So Matt and Travion kept their dribble a couple times and attacked the rim. We got some slips for layups, and then we got some dives, which he got some good action. So just trying to get, like I said earlier, just a balance of everything.
Matt, you've got 7 out of 8 against these guys, most recently, unusual in this rivalry.
Right.
Is there anything you can attribute that to, and what does that mean for your program to get these wins over IU?
Just we have good players. I think we've had good teams. You know, the thing that Indiana's had is Indiana's had more, you know, we've only had one guy leave early. You know, sometimes, you know, people get enamored with recruiting, but if you can't keep them, you can't grow. And it's really hard. It's a really hard thing. And so, like, when they've had guys, you know, like a Von Lay and those guys, and they get them, you know, we get Vince Edwards, and he's great for 4 years, and you grow with him. You know, you get A.J. Hammonds, he's great for 4 years. And so last year when we had 4 seniors, that's what you did 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. You grow your program, but you know, you have that system, and, you know, you get a lot of juniors and seniors. I think that's where you've seen a lot of those better teams. When Indiana had that really good team, you know, Jordan Holes was, you know, he was older. You know, Christian Watford got older. Obviously, Victor Oladipo and Zeller were lottery picks, but those 2 guys were big pieces for what they did and how successful they were. You just got to keep being old in this business, and when you can, it's hard. And then when there's coaching changes, you know, you start over, and that's difficult. And so a lot of people are just unrealistic sometimes of understanding how hard it is, because it's competitive. There is another team out there, and there are people going back and forth. So I think that for our success, you know, I value guys like Dakota Mathias and P.J. Thompson. You know, they don't turn the ball over, they make threes, they're great teammates, they know how to play, they make others better. And so the more you can get of skill and substance, we've been very fortunate, because maybe our guys don't get ranked high, you know, when they're 17 or 18 years old, but, you know, we rank them high. And as long as we win college basketball games, it's all that matters.
Do you feel like your program gets a bump when you beat the Hoosiers?
I don't know. I kind of just moved to Ohio State, to be honest with you. It's great. You know, you want to win a game. You feel worse when you lose than you do like there's a little bit of satisfaction, but you wake up the next day and you go watch Ohio State. You know, maybe 10 years down the road or whenever they get rid of me. You know, but right now you just kind of move forward, and I got all the respect for Arch. You know, he's a great coach, great guy. You know, they work hard. They got good pieces. You know, everybody gets in a stretch like this outside of a couple people in college. They just do. And they got good players, and they got good guys, and, you know, they'll get it going again. They'll have a good stretch.
Matt, just with Nogel being a 6'6" guard, he's pretty unique. Just what kind of a luxury is it to have that kind of a player, and how has he grown into what seems like one of the best defensive players?
Yeah, well, you were trying to get him to grow through playing longer stretches. That's the one thing, when you see me kind of go back and forth with him, I'm just trying to keep him fresh, trying to keep him on, you know, a talented player like Romeo Langford. The thing that you can do when you have size and you have a wingspan, you see it a little bit with Aaron Wheeler too, is you can make mistakes and you can make up for it because you're so long. And I think that's what happens with him with some of those guards. And Langford's the same way. They're so long. You know, you can break down, you can make a mistake, but you can still, you know, block a shot or get your hand in the passing lane and deflect it. So, you know, Nogel's size, he's not just long, but he's big. And so I think he causes problems with his size.
And obviously, they bring in McRoberts, or start McRoberts, for the purpose of running around with Carson. He's obviously a guy who hasn't shot the ball very much. How much did that kind of help you guys on the defensive end to be able to help off him a lot and clog the paint up?
Right. Well, you know, we wanted to give a lot of attention to Langford and to Morgan. Obviously, those are their 2 best guys. But with that being said, we didn't want to leave people wide open, but we wanted to try to clog up the driving lanes as best we could. It really helps if you can guard the basketball. When we break down, it's because we don't do a good job of containing the basketball. So when they're getting just straight blow-bys, it puts us in a really tough spot. When they're only kind of getting a slight angle and they're kind of going more east and west and north and south, that really helps us because it allows us to shrink the defense. But, you know, it's no different than what we would do versus anybody else. You just got to be able to gauge what the other team's trying to do, and, you know, who can shoot off the move, who can catch and shoot, and things of that nature.
You mentioned getting old and staying old.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is in building and sustaining in terms of just, you know, not having a one-year wonder, but having a program?
It's very important, and you have to gauge it when you have guys that you know aren't going to be there long. And then you got to try to handle it in recruiting. Things just get so cyclical in recruiting, and sometimes you're like, well, you got to bring a couple guys behind, you know, this guy because he might leave. But yeah, you still got to be able to convince that kid that that's going to happen when that is not a guarantee. You know what I mean? And so it's really hard to do it. You know, Mike Bray's done a great job of it at Notre Dame. Like he's really done a great job of of trying to get old and stay old. And sometimes, when you see that he doesn't have enough juniors and seniors, you see that struggle. But outside of a handful of programs in the country, you see that struggle from everybody. And then, with Indiana's case, like a guy like Duran Davis has been hurt. Like he was so good. And he still can be hurt, but he's got to get healthy. And so you get some bad breaks when guys, the one thing about when you're trying to do it and you're trying to get better and you're trying to improve, when you got a bunch of people that are hurt like they do, you can't practice. Your most important ability is your availability. It just is. Like you have to have guys, and now you're going to go and practice and then compete and, bang heads and someone else is going to get hurt. Then you feel like a fool as a coach, so you don't do that, but then you're not sharp. And so you're talking about what you should do instead of working on what you should do. And it's just, it's vicious. Like we've all been there when you're shorthanded and people are hurt, and then you wait for the games, but you're not practicing and getting better with a couple of them because they've been in a concussion protocol, or you twisted your ankle, or you come off surgery. And then when you got one or two, you're all right. But when you got 4, 5, 6 guys, it's hard to grow. And it just is. And then when you get competitive and you get in this league, you're going to lose. Like you're going to get on the road and lose. We're going to lose. They're going to lose. Everybody's going to lose. That's just kind of the way it is. Now when you bounce back, you need some bodies, you need some numbers, because everybody has tough games and bad games. So it's a tough racket. You got 14 teams in the league. There's not a school president that doesn't think their team should go to the NCAA tournament. Right. And that's just not happening. Hopefully our league this year can have 8, 9, 10 teams to go to the tournament. That'd be cool. But it'd be great for the coaches too.
Right. Just to follow up, in recruiting, how important do you feel it is to stack recruiting classes?
I think that's how a championship happens. Unless you just get somebody special like a Carmelo Anthony, I think that's how championships happen. Like you get that really good recruiting class, then you get that next recruiting class, and then you get that third one, and then if something happens, injury, somebody leaves or whatever, you got 3 in a row. Everybody wants to know how it works for them. So it's really hard. What about this guy? And what about that guy? And what about this guy? Because you recruit a guy from an individual standpoint about how they're going to affect your program and how they're going to do when they get there. But when they get there, it's a team sport. There's not a player who's ever played college basketball that doesn't have to sacrifice in some way. So sometimes it's hard defining roles and getting everybody on the same page once you do that. And that's when you have special groups, when you find those guys. We had a group last year. They were special. All those guys I mentioned, Vince Edwards, Dakota, Isaac, PJ, they all sacrificed. They embraced Carson and his ability to score and come into that fray as we lost Biggie. But that's what you have to have. When you have those special groups that sacrifice and have a lot of substance, that's when you're going to win a lot of close games.
Is there anything else?
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.